Hello, my name is Angelina and I will be presenting on the past, present, and potential of virtual reality. In order to understand how virtual reality is at the moment and what its limitations are and how it can be expanded in the future, you must first know how the technology was thought of and developed over time. Going into the definition of virtual reality, it is an artificial environment which is experienced through sensory stimuli provided by a computer in which someone's actions partially determines what happens in the environment, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. For clarification, when discussing the history of virtual reality, I'll still be discussing the concept with this definition in mind. Some of the inventions and concepts I mentioned, however, will be the fundamentals of virtual reality, which isn't the same thing. Something that's heavily been discussed is the idea that anything that morphs reality can be considered virtual reality. A document titled Defining Virtual Reality, Dimensions Determining Telepresence by Jonathan Storr expands on this idea that virtual reality should not be hardware-based, but focused on telepresence. Telepresence is defined as the experience of presence in an environment, measured by different forms of mediums that enhance the user's vividness and interactivity. An issue with this broad idea is that the medium can be taken into interpretation, and it can be argued what virtual reality is and what is not. It'd be up to the audience to decide how much telepresence can be achieved in order for something to be considered virtual reality. So, to avoid confusion or intense debate, I'll be referring to virtual reality as its more socially accepted, technological-based form. Technology used in virtual reality is based off old inventions dating all the way back to the 1800s. Back in 1839, the first stereoscope, invented by Sir Charles Whitstone, was created. Stereoscopy is a technique that enhances the illusion of depth within an image. So the stereoscopy in 1939 used mirrors to reflect an image that simulated both the left and right eye of the image being seen. The brain then combines these two viewed images to create one three-dimensional object. This is the core concept of how virtual reality is done. A more modernized version is the 1861 Holmes stereoscope, which was made out of wood and two lenses. Stereoscopes later on include the 1900s popular toy, the ViewMaster, and the 2000s Google Cardboard. The ViewMaster, which was originally created in 1939, is still made and sold to this day, and even has a more upgraded model called the ViewMaster Deluxe VR Viewer that incorporates smartphone applications and the use of QR codes. The Google Cardboard was released in 2014 as a way to get people interested in virtual reality, since it's an affordable head mount that uses 360 imagery on smartphones. Pretty simple. Diving back into the 1900s, back in 1930s, a book was written that predicted virtual reality to an extent. It was written by Stanley Weinbaum, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, titled Pygmalion Spectacles. It describes goggles that allows you to smell, taste, and touch things that aren't there in reality. Although we don't have all those senses included in our current technology, it's something that we're striving for. Eventually, the hope for virtual reality is for an experience to be so immersive the user forgets that they're in a simulation. The Sensorama, created in 1962 by inventor Morton Heilig, was built as a prototype of his vision. The Sensorama is a mechanical device that includes a stereoscopic color display, fans, odor emitters, stereo sound system, and emotional chair. So it was a way back then they were trying to enhance all the senses to put you in that location and have you experience that. Since then, there's been a lot of historical moments that have impacted VR to cover, so I'm going to end it there and continue on with current modern devices of virtual reality. The two largest names in VR in 2016 were the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. The Vive uses room-scale tracking that allows the user to move in a 3D space. Its tracking is better than the Oculus. Although the Oculus headset was released a month before the Vive actually had hand presence before the Oculus, like they released their controllers first. This is crucial for VR because it allows the players to feel deeper immersion and connected to the player that they're playing. However, once the Oculus controller was released, popularity rose due to how natural they felt and how a player can easily feel connected as soon as they held them. It is now 2019, and since then, VR has continued to expand. Currently within Oculus, they have the Go, the Quest, and the Rift S. HTC has the Vive Focus Plus as well as the Vive Pro. And there's a pretty popular one called the Valve Index. It's currently one of the more expensive headsets, but for a good reason. It's pretty awesome. Aside from that, there's also headsets within Google, Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, and like smaller companies, but I'm not going to delve too far into all of the VR headsets currently available. Aside from gaming, additional ways VR is slowly being integrated will include field trips, skill training, architecture and design, game-based learning, and tourism. In terms of tourism, a good example of this would be the Smithsonian Museum. They have a 360 VR experience in their gallery Wonder. You can use your smartphone to let the viewers explore the galaxy and subtle interactions such as like pop-up text, informational videos, etc. They also have an application called Skin and Bones that allows you to bring their bone hall to life. It lets you hold your tablet up to, or phone or tablet up to the displays and see how the dinosaur would have looked like if it was still alive. And those are kind of like augmented reality ones, but gives an idea to what virtual reality can do later on in expanding tourism. As for construction, it is currently common practice for architectures and construction to create 3D models of what is being built. By using the 3D models, it lets workers ensure that the piping and materials are being placed in the appropriate location, so there's no design flaws. They also use 3D modeling to create a finished project, so the buyer can virtually tour what they are paying to be created. And for education, when it comes to education, virtual reality is currently being implemented in many ways. The main one being medical students to fully examine and dissect a body in a clean and efficient way. Students can use VR to remove and reveal different sections to see how all of the organs and bones and nerves and muscles work together. By giving them this type of hands-on experience, it betters them as doctors and physicians by increasing their knowledge in anatomy. Although the technology is becoming more advanced, it is not something that should be feared, but rather something we should look forward to in regards to all the benefits it can provide, whether it be for recreation or academic purposes. There's still multiple ways that VR needs to improve in order for us to have that full immersion in the computer-generated technology. But I believe that over time, the sensory can be adequately portrayed within VR, and it'll end up being commonly used, not in the sense to replace our reality, but to improve and enhance it.